Did God make heaven and earth before he created angels? You know, like, what came first, angels or everything else? It's a deep topic, but let's break it down in a simple way. We're going to look at the Bible, have a little chat about what it says, and maybe even some things it doesn't say. Stick around and let's figure this out together. All right, first things first. In Genesis 1:1, it says, "In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth." That's like the opening line of everything, right? But here's the thing, angels aren't mentioned anywhere in that chapter. Like, not even a little bit. So where do angels fit in? Well, the Bible doesn't give us a timeline for when God created angels, but we do know they're created beings. How? Colossians 1 verse 16 says, "For by him all things were created, in heaven and on earth, visible and invisible." Angels fall into that invisible category, but were they made before heaven and earth? Let's keep going. Here's something cool to think about. Angels live in heaven, right? So for God to make angels, wouldn't heaven have to already exist? Like, how can you live somewhere that hasn't been built yet? Job 38 verses 4-7 gives us a clue. God is talking to Job and says, "Where were you when I laid the foundation of the earth? When the morning stars sang together and all the sons of God shouted for joy?" Those sons of God are often understood to be angels. So they were there celebrating when God created the earth. So it's likely angels were already around when earth was made. Okay, now let's talk about heaven. Heaven is where God's throne is, but it's also where angels live. If angels were shouting for joy when God made the earth, then it's possible heaven was created before earth. Makes sense, right? But here's the thing, heaven isn't eternal like God. God has no beginning and no end, but heaven is part of creation. So God had to create heaven at some point. It's just not super clear if he made it before or after the angels. What we do know is that angels were created to serve God and worship him. Hebrews 1 verse 14 says angels are ministering spirits sent out to serve. So they were created with a purpose, just like everything else God made. Now you might be wondering, why does this even matter? Well, it's not just about timelines. It's about understanding who God is. He's a God of order and purpose. Everything he creates has a reason, whether it's angels, earth, or heaven. And here's the big takeaway. Angels, heaven, earth, none of it existed before God decided to create it. He's the ultimate creator. He doesn't need heaven to be God, and he didn't need angels to help him out. He's complete on his own. So did God create heaven and earth before angels? Based on the Bible, it seems like angels were around when God made earth, so heaven was probably made first. But here's the cool part. God doesn't tell us everything because he wants us to trust him and keep digging into his word. At the end of the day, what's most important is knowing that God is in control. He made everything, heaven, earth, angels, and even us, for his glory. If you've got more questions like this, drop them in the comments or let me know what you